bathroom. I'm just trying to finish my hair here, doing my hair. I have this little section left, so I'm just gonna get right into the topic because this is a topic that I just keep, unfortunately, it's a topic that keeps coming up. And I wasn't even gonna talk about it because I'm just enjoying my life right now. Most of my videos lately has just been about, me, the kids, my husband, whatever we're doing, whatever adventures that we're on. And yeah, I do still discuss some topics, but then I felt like this is one of those topics that need, you know, the need to be spoken on more and more and more so that people start to understand that stereotyping people is not good. Okay, whatever preconceived notions you have about people is a you problem. You need to sort that out. You need to sort that out with yourself. It doesn't really actually have anything to do with the people that you're stereotyping. If anything, you're just kind of being annoying and perpetuating a stereotype that's going to just, make other people's lives a little bit harder sometimes in some circumstances. And this topic is about interracial relationships, but specifically interracial relationships involving African women and American men. Okay. And the reason I want to touch on this topic is because, well, right now I'm in my bathroom doing my hair, and I figured I might as well do a live about something. And I keep seeing this reoccurring topic with some of the other content creators that are of African background, where they're being accused of, now that they marry their husbands, like if they separate from their white husbands, but they're being accused that, oh, it's because you got what you want. You married him to use him for papers, and now you got what you want, and now you left. And it's almost comical to me because I'm African. A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people that meet me don't realize this. And it's because of the way that I speak, I think. Mostly it's because of the way I speak. I don't really think it's anything else other than that. And the way I speak is because I grew up in different countries. I didn't grow up in one particular African country, even though I was born in an African country, but also because, yeah, I grew up in different countries and my accent has changed many times. So my accent became very adaptable to wherever I lived. Wherever it was that I lived, my accent adapted really fast because I was going through a lot of changes and moving to different countries at a young age, right? So I moved to Canada at about, it must have been 14, 15, and then my accent, again, adapted to the Canadian accent. I picked up a lot of Canadian mannerisms and, the way Canadians speak. And I still don't think it's 100% Canadian. I can still hear, and I think if you guys watch me a lot, you could probably still hear a little bit of nuances from other accents in some of my words. Some of them, I still hear it. I still pick it up when I'm speaking, especially when I'm doing lives, because I'm not very talkative in person. I'm a very quiet person. So usually when I'm home and I'm not on a live, I'm not really talking much. I'm not really, other than just telling my kids to do their homework or whatever, I'm not really talking. I'm not a talkative person. So I only come on these lives when I really have something to say, something that I want to share. But anyways, I'm digressing. So this topic, I want to speak on it specifically because I am an African woman. I am an African born, partially raised in Africa. But I feel like it's prevalent enough that it needs to be spoken about because this is a stereotype that is hurting a lot of people. And I can tell it's hurting a lot of people because I just watched a video with, if you guys know, Nurse Glory. She was talking about this very topic today. And few other people too have spoken about it, not just her. A few other people I've watched as well who are talking about it. And I know people personally who have been accused of doing this very same thing of like, okay, if you married a white person, you marry them for papers, which is not true. It's not necessarily true. So I just wanted to talk about this because I'm like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. And it's not coming, and again, let me just stress, this is not coming only from like the American perspective or the North American or white perspective. It's not just white people that are like, oh yeah, you marry for papers. Or it's not just Black American people that are blaming African women for marrying for papers. It's also even African people that are blaming other African people because anytime they see the dynamic of a Black person with a white person, especially an African person with a North American white person, I should say, because there's Black North American people as well. They automatically think that it was a green card situation, but that's not always the case, guys. That is not always the case. Most times, I feel like it's very few people. I have rarely met people that are in an interracial relationship that have ever married for papers. To be honest with you, it's actually not as common as you think. It's just that those stories, when they do happen, they're the loudest stories, right? Those are the stories that you hear about the most. That's the only thing. It's not that that's what happens most of the time. I know a lot of interracial people, African, not African, whatever, that are together because they genuinely love each other. They genuinely just love each other. And I'm in a similar boat where I moved to Canada, like I said, when I was 14, 15. And again, I think I should stress this or mention this some more just to dispel some of the stereotypes. When we are in Africa, it's not necessarily that we're living these like extreme poverty or world vision type things that you see on TV. That's not the case. I lived a very, very good life when I was in Africa. Much better standard of living than what I live now, even. So a lot of us are not leaving because, oh my gosh, it's so terrible over there and it's so much better over here. Sometimes we're leaving because, you know, we just want to live somewhere else. Nature of human beings, sometimes you just want to relocate and try something different. Some of us are leaving because of other things we might not like about the country. Maybe you don't like the heat and you want to live somewhere cooler. Maybe you just don't like the political structure or the economic structure or whatever, or even the culture. You are allowed to be born in a country and decide you just don't like it and that you want to live somewhere else because you're a citizen of planet Earth first, right? Before we put these borders on a map, guess what? We didn't have borders on a map. We freely moved from place to place, at will, right? We went wherever we wanted to go for whatever reason we wanted to go there for, right? We did not have to stay in any particular place. But after the whole colonialism stuff and people put borders because they were obviously fighting for pieces of land, that's when we started thinking of citizenship as a matter of thinking of ourselves, our identities as citizens of one particular country first. But that's not true. We're citizens of the planet Earth. You are an earthling first. So you can decide that you might just not like where you were specifically born. You might not like the culture. You might not like the language. You might not like the people. You might not like the food. And there's something else that you like and you want to try. There is no wrong in that. And I know some people will come on here and be like, oh yeah, it's self-hate, it's self-hate. No, it's not self-hate. If you go to a restaurant, okay, if you go to a buffet, you're not going to keep eating the food that tastes bad. If the food tastes bad, get something else. You're not going to keep eating the same food that tastes bad. And we all have different preferences. It's not always a self-hate issue. We have different preferences. You might just like colder climates better. You might just, not like to live in a culture that is maybe there's something that you don't like about it. Maybe they're like homophobic, for instance, or maybe they're prescribed to, they're predominantly a religion that you don't prescribe to, right? But because it's a cultural thing, it's become a cultural thing. It's something that affects you on a day-to-day basis. So guess what? You're gonna go somewhere else where you are appreciated for who you are. You see what I mean? So there's so many different reasons that people move from. Oh, I feel like I'm making these big. There's many different reasons why people move from where they live, guys. It's not always because, they're running away from something. And I can tell you that firsthand because, I mean, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you guys. But this idea that if you're married to a white guy, you marry for papers is just so played out, okay? We're in 2022. There's many ways to get papers. When my family came here, we got papers all on our own, just easily. Not easily, it was a process, but still, we did not need to go marry somebody that we did not like in order to get our papers. We got our papers when I was still a kid. So by the time that I met my husband, the question of, oh, getting papers, my citizenship, whatever, it wasn't even a part of the whole, it wasn't a part of our, you know, the reason that we dated or met. Because I had been a Canadian citizen for a very long time. I've been a Canadian citizen since I was a teenager. So I was looking for a life partner. He was looking for a life partner. I just happened to be, born in another part of the same planet. And he was born in this part of the planet. But papers was never, ever, 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 it wasn't necessary. So my point is, these are stereotypes, clearly, because I'm an African woman that married a white Canadian man. Papers was never a part of the issue. But yet, anytime people see us, I feel like that is the first assumption they have. Like, as soon as they learn that I'm African, that is, because when I'm speaking to them, most times they just assume I was born here. But as soon as they start to know me better, maybe they start hearing maybe, the slight differences in my accent or whatever, they'll be like, oh, okay, wait, where are you from? Most people think I'm Jamaican. I kid you not. When most people first meet me, they think I'm of Jamaican background, right? I'm sorry, I find it funny because it's like the furthest place from where I'm actually from. But yeah, most people think I'm Jamaican, and that's because of I think it's because of my like chilled nature. I'm like so laid back. I'm very different from like, I don't know, maybe I'm just assuming. I'm assuming, right? Because I've had Jamaican friends and they were very chill compared to like my African friends. African culture is very conservative and it's very strict and very British, like, it's very like old school British, not like new school British, like old school British. So I think it's because of that. Like, I've had people walk up to me and ask me if I have weed. I get you now. People ask me if I have weed. I don't even smoke. So now, with that said, right? Once people learn that I am African, I was born in Africa. Um, I feel like they then assume that, oh, well, okay, you're African, you're married to a white Canadian man, so it must have been for papers. Um, and the funny thing is, it could be easily the other way around. What if he's a white man and he doesn't have papers? What if he's an immigrant himself from somewhere else, right? He could easily be an immigrant from somewhere from like Eastern Europe. Oh, my baby's waking up, guys. Hold on 1 second. I really want to finish my hair and finish talking about this. But I gotta go put him down. I gotta go. Okay, give me 10 minutes. I gotta breastfeed him. Oh, it's a mommy thing, mommy. gone back to sleep. I think he might have peed. I might need to do a diaper change because usually when he just cries like this, it's too early. He might have had a pee. Hold on a second. Alright, guys, I am back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. So I was saying, first of all, the stereotype that if an African woman marries a white man, that they're in it for papers. So played out. It's so old. There's so many ways that African people can come into North America and get papers without ever marrying anyone. That is like a last ditch resort, usually. So most of the African people that you see in North America, they didn't go that route. They came in because either they were educated professionals, and they were immigrating as educated professionals that were needed to fill certain spots, or they might have come in as investors, even. Because come on, a lot of us have money where we're coming from. It's not all poverty and grim and whatever for everybody, not for all African people. It's like anywhere else, guys. It's like anywhere else. I can tell you firsthand as an African person. It's like anywhere else. There are wealthy African people, there are poor African people. And there are wealthy African people that want to move and go live somewhere else. And there are poor African people who want to escape their poverty and go take a chance somewhere else for a better life. Just like anything else. But this notion of the papers thing, that's the green card thing, or like in my case, I live in Canada, so the Canadian citizenship thing, it's invalid. It's not even like, if we could statistically look at the numbers of people that come into North America and marry for papers, you will realize that it's like such a small percentage of people. The percentage is so irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. My other point that I wanted to make was this: anyone can use anyone. This mentality of the African person is always using the American person thing or the North American person thing. I know sometimes it's perpetuated by those, Nigerian scams and whatever, but if we look at track record, let's look at track record, because I like to look at the evidence. I like to look at the evidence. Let's check the track record of who has used who the most. Should I even start? Where do I start? Where do I start? So let's start from slavery. Who went to whose continent, gathered up a bunch of people, more than a bunch of people, millions of people, and shipped them across an ocean to sell them as free labor, and then continued to use them as free labor for over 200 years, 300 years. Let's just look at the track record. Who came into people's countries, stole the land from underneath them, okay, and used it to profit themselves while they take all the resources of that country and give the native people of that country nothing, barely anything to live on. Now, and then use them as cheap labor or free labor. Now let's just look at the track record here of who has a track record of using who. Take my socks off here because you guys. Now, I know I had to leave the live for a little bit, so I hope more people come in because I really want to make some points, some really important points that I feel like we need to talk about this more. We really need to talk about this more. So let's look at the track records. After slavery is abolished in North America, who created the Jim Crow system that allowed them to continue to use people for very little money and create a disparity, a massive economic disparity between the races. Now let's look at the track record here. Even within Africa, even after African countries fought for their independence, like my country where I was born, Zimbabwe, we fought for our independence. And when we got our independence, now who decided that those African countries, for them to get their independence completely, they need to pay off a debt. They need to get a loan from the IMF and pay off a debt to their former colonizers. And these loans were extremely high interest, and a lot of these African countries are still paying off these debts till today. Who decided that? Now, again, let's look at the track record, guys. Who's using who? Who has the biggest track record of using who? Now, you're talking about a few people, a small percentage of people in Africa that might, if they even get the opportunity, meet somebody and decide that they're going to, and you have to meet them, you have to convince them to date you, you have to convince them to marry you. That those are all large steps, all in hopes that you're going to get a green card. That seems like a much more cumbersome step to take than to just go through the immigration process like the rest of us did and get your papers. So again, we're looking at the track records. Even today, all of these cell phones and devices we're using, every single item, most of the items in your household, from your fridge, your stove, your phones, your everything that you touch, the raw materials, even the meat you are eating, the grains that fed that meat at that factory farm. Where are majority of the grains coming from? Where are the raw materials for your phone, for your laptop, for your tablet, for your TV, all those flat screens? The raw materials for the cars you're driving. Where are those raw materials coming from? The African continent. So, like I said, people, we need critical thinking skills. We need to develop critical thinking skills, and this is everybody, my African people, who are perpetuating this stereotype as well by always assuming that if you marry a white man, you're guaranteed a green card, that if you marry a white man, you marry rich. That's not true. I can tell you for one. I am married to a white man. He's not a rich man. We struggled for years to even get to a point where I had to financially educate him in financial literacy, in just a basic budget, because we were starting a family together, and his spending habits and his pay were not matching. It just was not matching. He was living beyond his means. He was used to just splurging and just wasting money. And now we were having a family, and I'm like, okay, if you want us to have this lifestyle that you want, that we both want, where I'm taking care of our kids, I'm homeschooling, whatever. Once we have children, even if I wasn't homeschooling, if I was working full time, as a woman, my earning potential is more at risk. It's more, the chances of my earning potential lowering is much higher than of his earning potential lowering. Okay, like that's facts. Like let's just put that out there. Let's put that on the table. As women, no matter how much we want to contribute, our earning potential is always affected when we have children. So I'm like, if okay, you want to live this lifestyle, but how are we going to afford it? I have money put aside, and some of that money did help to create some of that the to kind of get us started on that lifestyle. But at the end of the day, I needed him to be financially literate enough so that we can have a consistent, we're meeting our bills, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're planning, right? So not every white man that you're going to meet is rich. Not every white man you're going to meet even knows how to take care of their finances, even the little that they have. Not every white man that you have, that you meet, is going to be nice to you. People, that's the other stereotype I hear, that, white men are going to treat you better than black men. Again, stereotype. It is a stereotype. There are some cultural differences, yes, where some cultures, like I know in my culture, our men were taught that, don't go in the kitchen, that's the woman's job. There's some traditional roles that are taught, even to younger generations. Not all younger generations follow them like anywhere else. Some of them rebel against them and they decide, no, I'm going to help my wife. We're going to share everything. I'm going to cook. I'm going to take care of my kids. And she's going to do what she can as well, right? But then obviously you're going to meet those men that prescribe to their tradition and say, no, you're the one who's going to stay home. You're going to cook. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. The reason I'm a stay-at-home mom has nothing to do with me being African. It was in me trying to prescribe to my African tradition. It had nothing to do with it. It had everything to do with functionality and our goals and our plans in life. So again, let me stress this again. Just because you marry a white man does not mean you're going to get more support when it comes to taking care of kids or the home or whatever. You can get that from a black man as well. You just have to find the right person. You have to be looking for the right person. Don't go and marry a black man who strictly prescribes to traditional roles. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. And at the same time, there are white men who also prescribe traditional roles. I have met white men, like some East European white men, who are like, no, strict women, kitchen. I go do this, like, you know what I mean? Like, and not just East European white men, even Canadian white men that are like that. And you'll find them seeking women from countries that are more traditional in that sense as well, because they know they're never going to get a white, traditionally white Canadian woman who's going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to be traditionally stay at home and do this and that. No, it's not going to work unless it's beneficial somehow. Maybe like for myself, it was a part of our plan from the get that if we had children, we're going to homeschool them. You see, so that's the whole point I'm trying to make here. The other point is this: just because the person is American, and I'm going to say North American because this applies to Canada too, just because the person is North American doesn't mean that they're not looking to use an African person. And just because a person is African doesn't mean that they don't have things to offer that a person that is American might look at and be like, ooh, yeah, if I play my cards right here, I have something I can gain from this. Because at the end of the day, people are people are people. People are people are people. Users are users. They don't care where you're from. If they find something that you have that they want, they're going to try to take it. Now, with that said, we really, really need to stop playing into these ridiculous notions, okay? Because I know personally white men that have gone after black women. I have actually dated guys that I realized afterwards, I was like, this is going to be horrible. This is going to be a trap. If I go further with this person in this relationship, he's going to suck the life out of me. But I'm African, right? And he's white Canadian. For instance, I'm black African Canadian. He's white Canadian, white European Canadian, whatever. Because we're all immigrants at the end of the day, just a matter of when your family came. So again, this notion that it's always one way is always, the African person that wants something from the American. Not all African people want to leave Africa. Majority of African people do not want to leave Africa. That is their home. It is the richest continent on the face of the planet, the most arable land on the face of the planet, the most opportunity as far as entrepreneurship on the planet. Are you kidding me? Why would you want to leave? I didn't want to leave when I was young. I left because my parent left and I was a child. I was a minor. I had to leave. If I had it my way, I would have stayed. If I could have it my way, I would have stayed. So again, not all of us want to leave. When I lived in Africa, I had a much better life. I had a much better standard of living, much better life than I do here. Because we were very successful, very well, my mom specifically, she did very well for herself. She did very, very well for herself. So these things are stereotypes based on lack of information, based on nonsense, just rubbish. You guys just don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. You watch World Vision, which is fake. Okay, because I have known people that have worked for World Vision, friends of my mom's, that literally quit their job because they were being told, taken to these villages in Africa and bribing these kids with candy. They give the kid candy like this, here, candy, candy, and they snatch it away from them to get them to cry so that then they focus with a camera and be like, oh, look how poor this kid is. Kids in African villages are some of the happiest kids in the world because they're living a sustainable life. They grow their food, they eat from the earth. Okay, they're not eating all the toxic waste that we're eating here in the cities. They're eating stuff that grows out of the land. They live off the land. They're happy. But World Vision, for specifically World Vision, I know because I can speak for that because my mom's family, my mom's friend quit her job and told us this is what they were doing. It's a big scam. So don't fall for everything you see on TV, guys. We're not all, African people are not all running around naked with flies all in us, starving. Yes, of course, there's places that starvation happens because of like climate. Maybe there's a drought, a long drought in that area, and then you can't grow food or whatever. Those things do happen. But also, let's talk about the poverty rates and starvation rates in North America. I went to public school here. I remember seeing kids coming to school with no food, with no lunch, not being able to afford lunches in school. I remember seeing that. And I was a new immigrant and I was much better off than some of the kids that were generations here, generations of families here. I went to school with kids that, if their parents didn't go to like food banks, they would starve. You see? And I'm like, you guys have been here for generations and you're still dependent on food banks. At least for me, I could be like, if we had to go to food banks, which we did sometimes, we're new immigrants. We sold everything to a new country. So of course, sometimes we would need the support because we're trying to get on our feet, right? But then I know generations of people, families, and they're still using food banks. So I mean, I don't know. It's just what do you call it? When a place is just like misrepresented in the media, and then you think everyone in America lives like what you see on TV. That's not true. I know so many people in North America that are very, very poor. Very poor. Some poverty levels that I've only ever seen, that I've seen in third world countries, in what they call third world countries. I've seen those poverty levels here in North America. So everything is here. People are people are people, guys. People are people are people. And some people here, like right now, there's a movement of like Black Americans that are returning to Africa. They're going back to Africa to farm or to do whatever, or going to Brazil, anywhere where there's a bigger population of Black people. Because they're realizing that the way they've been treated here is never going to change. They've been here for generations. Their ancestors worked for free. For free. For free, guys. No pay. And yet they the respect that they deserve. If anything, they get even judged for going on like food stamps, going on welfare. I mean, I can never judge a Black American person for going on food stamps because your ancestors worked for free. If you need help because of the economic disparity that's created, go get the help. Nobody should even question you. You guys didn't even get reparations for all that labor. You didn't even get reparations. So, what's the big fuss about a welfare queen? Welfare queen. How dare you? How dare you, people? You're disgusting. You use people for hundreds of years, no pay. And then their descendants, when they're struggling to get on their feet because they didn't get paid for hundreds of years. You want to call them welfare queens? Let's see right now if your family lost, if we took away your family's pay for even a month, how much would that set you back as far as trying to pay for your mortgage or trying to pay for your rent and just progress in general? How much would that set you back? I bet you'll be on your ass out on the street in no time. But these people are trying to get back on their feet after hundreds of years of being used. And then they're being called welfare queens, welfare queens. We need to get our shit together. We really, really do. We are so messed up as a human race. We need to start treating our human family much better than the way that we're treating our human family right now. Okay, treat these people with respect. They already worked and built your nations off the sweat and of their backs and the blood that runs through their veins. People died doing this for free. No reparations, and you're gonna give them a hard time about why they're on welfare or why are they on food stamps. Guys, this is ridiculous. It's disgusting. It's actually appalling. It's a very disgusting human trait. And if you're one of those people, you need to really self-reflect and check yourself. But anyway, back to the topic. This stereotype, African woman marrying a African woman marrying an American man or North American man for papers. For papers. Okay. First of all, like I just said, how many people do that? Not that many people. And secondly, a lot of African people do not want to leave Africa. We have so much opportunity there. Especially if we're business centered, we have so much opportunity there. And even if people want to leave Africa to go somewhere else, so what? Ask yourself, especially if you're white, how did your ancestors get to where they are in America? They left Europe. Why? Because they didn't want to be there anymore. Plain and simple. So anybody else can leave their country and go to another country because they just don't want to be in their country anymore. They want to be somewhere else. The same reason your ancestors left. Anybody else can leave for the same reasons. Okay. It's not about this double standard. It's justified if your ancestors did it. But somebody else's ancestors doing it is not justified? No, that's ridiculous. Come on, guys. Come on, that's ridiculous. So, with that said, let's respect each other as a human race. We are one human family. And yes, as one human family, we tend to fall in love with each other, regardless of race. We fall in love with each other because we're beautiful and we find each other beautiful. I find black men beautiful and black women. I actually find black men and women gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. I love everything about our features. I love everything about our hair. But just because I love us doesn't mean that I can't love a white man, a Chinese man, an Indian man, any other race. Any other race. I can love any other race because we're one human family. And we all have beautiful things about ourselves, about each other. We all have beautiful things about ourselves that are lovable. At the end of the day, we are all lovable. At the core of it, we're lovable people unless we're really messed up. I mean, even Jeffrey Dahmer convinced somebody to come home with him, even though he was going to kill them and eat them. So again, there must have been something lovable about him, about even him. Hitler had a wife. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. You know, at the end of the day, we're all lovable, and it's not unusual that we're going to fall in love with each other. I live in North America. I live in Canada. I live in North America. So it makes sense that the people that I'm going to fall in love with are the people around me. And I'm surrounded by beautiful variety of people. I've always grown up here surrounded by Asian people, surrounded by other Black people from different places too, like Caribbean Black people or Black people from South America, Black people from here, Black people from there, just a mix because we're very different cultures. But at the end of the day, no matter how different we were, there was always a commonality that brought us together, which is that we're all human beings. We all lovable, and we all seek to give love and to receive love at the end of the day. And that's what attracted me. Part of what attracted me to my husband. Yes, he's white, and I love him. Just as white as he is. It has nothing to do with self-hate. It has nothing to do with getting papers. It has nothing to do with none of those things. I just love him as a human being, and he just loves me as a human being. And we're on this journey of learning how to grow together, build together, and love each other even more with our differences and our similarities. So, again, back to this topic that, if it's an African person marrying, I'm going to say person this time because even African men fall into this category. If it's an African person marrying, let me not forget to finish doing my hair, guys. I have this little portion left, and it's taking me forever to finish it. So if it's an African person marrying a white person, it has to do something to do with papers or self-hate or something. There's always some kind of angle. No, for the most part, it's just love. It's so simple. It's so basic, guys. You guys are overcomplicating things. 1 second here. Just picking up my hair. You guys are overcomplicating things. The simplest explanation is the most dominant explanation. It's just love. Human beings love to love. All these other things you're hearing are just the loudest people in the room going, yeah, I married for papers, or I'm married for this and that, or you know what I mean? I married because I don't like my own race. I don't self-hate. Those are always the loudest people in the room. But it doesn't mean that they represent everybody. That's the thing. They don't represent all of us that are in interracial relationships. They represent themselves. So take it at a case-by-case basis. If you meet an interracial couple, ask them, or take some time to get to know them and figure out why they married. And even if they marry for papers, that's their business. That's their business. But then again, I also beg you to look at the track record, like I said. The track record of which race of humans used the other race of humans the most throughout history, the past 500 years. Okay, well, let's say even 1,000 years. Which race has used the other race the most? If you guys want to be all bent out of shape about African people marrying for papers, okay, ask yourselves, who enslaved who and used people for free labor? Who took people's land and colonized them, changed their culture, wiped out their history and their sciences and everything that they, all of the progress, the human progress that they made, who did that? And took their lands and put them in a place of positions of poverty and ghettos and stuff. Who did that the most? Right? Let's think about it. Let's really look at the track record here. If you guys are worried about scams, who went and convinced other people's leaders that, oh yeah, we're just going to do this, we're just going to do that, we'll trade you this for this, and they were lying. Turns out they were lying. They just wanted to steal. and they just want power. Come on, guys. Let's think critically here, okay? And get off this stupid trend of thought that if an African person is marrying a white person from anywhere, it's about papers that they're so desperate to get out of their country. That is not the case. Most of the time, that is not the case because African people can find their way to any country in many other ways. We do not have to resort to marrying people. And I'm saying that as an African person myself that married a white person. In case the accent is fooling you, I am African, okay? Born, raised, and I came here. We got our papers on our own, and I met my husband years after, over probably more than a decade and a half after we got our papers. And then that's just the person I fell in love with. And that's the person I decided to marry for no other gain other than to just love him. That's it. That's the only thing I was going to gain from it. Me loving him. Because that's the person that I loved. So, I think people need to go sit down for a bit. Drink a cold glass of water first so you can relax and do some serious introspection and find out where is it inside of you that you're finding all this toxicity and dysfunction that you're projecting onto other people, because that's what you're doing. You were just projecting this nonsense onto other people. And then for those, my fellow African people, that think that marrying a white person is the answer, which again, I don't even like to address this because there's so few of you. It's not even a lot. I know African people because I'm African. This is not the topic of conversation in our circles. We're not talking about, oh, where am I going to find a white man? I need to find a white man. Do you know somebody married to a white man? Can you hook me up? Hook me up. I need a white man. This is not the topic of conversation in our circles. This is not our priority. Okay, it's not our priority. But some of you imagine that it is, but it's not. We don't even talk about you. We don't care about your whiteness. We don't care about your American citizenship or your Canadian citizenship because we're living our best lives where we are. I grew up in Africa, a very, very lavished life because of my parents' success. Okay? A life that you guys cannot even imagine, even if I described it to you. Okay? A life that I think maybe your topmost elite here in North America can afford to live. Most of you middle class don't even afford to live the kind of lifestyle that I was living. You see, so not all of us are coming from this abstract poverty and just seeking to run away and get rescued by some white savior and get papers, and we're not all in a begging position. A lot of us, we're just happy people. We were successful where we were, and we just want to try something different because we can. Simply because we can, and we have the opportunity to go somewhere else and live a different lifestyle and meet different people and just have, and just live life. It's just that simple, guys. It's that simple. And I really, really like that I made this video because I just wanted to dispel some of these stereotypes. Because I know most of the time when people hear me speaking, they first of all don't realize I'm African until I say I'm African. But then they say a lot of things about African women, again, not realizing that I'm African. Saying, about the papers and the green card. And not just about African women, about African men too. About African men too. And I always want to challenge people to challenge their stereotypes. Challenge your stereotypes. Where are you getting these stereotypes? And also, if you really are concerned about human beings using human beings, look at the track record of which human beings have used other human beings the most. You see what I mean? Look at the track record, because it tells you the opposite of what you think. And yet, I'm not holding a grudge. It didn't stop me from marrying a white man just because, his ancestors might have done some atrocious things to my ancestors. That didn't stop me because I am an open and loving person. All I hold in my heart is love. And I can love a person. I can love any person. And that's the person that I fell in love with. right? That's a person that worked for me, right? And again, this thing about African people saying, hook me up, hook me up, hook me up. Don't do that. Find your partner, regardless of their race. Okay? Don't do that. Find your partner. It should have nothing to do with their race. If they end up happening to be white, then that's something else. Because remember, interracial relationships come with their own set of problems, unique problems that you might not face in the same race relationship. So you have to be prepared for that. So don't think it's all going to be fun and games. It's not. There's a lot of learning curves to be learned. A lot of learning curves as far as like how to relate to each other from different races. Like my husband and I, for instance, we're coming from two opposite backgrounds, right? I'm coming from a Zimbabwean background where my ancestors literally fought his ancestors, literally, for our independence, right? And his ancestors obviously left Europe because they didn't like the way they were doing things over there. So they're like, we're going to come to North America. But then they put the North American native people through the same atrocious stuff that the European leaders were putting my people through. You see? But then again, I don't hold hate in my heart, right? When I look at him, I don't judge him based on those things because he personally had nothing to do with that. And he does not live his life based on those values. He doesn't. He doesn't live his life based on those values. He really does recognize his white privilege a lot of the times. And he does recognize the things that his ancestors did. And not even his ancestors per se, because his ancestors were not the ones. I'm just saying in general, because a lot of people will say white. As long as they're white, then they're ancestors. But it wasn't directly his ancestors. But anyways, my point is this. Yeah, so because he's white, he does recognize that there's certain things that were done in the past that were not okay. And there's certain things that were done in the past that were not okay that might have benefited his family and himself today. Even indirectly, even if he doesn't agree with it personally, even if his family doesn't agree with those things, they still did, right? So, again, don't be asking people, especially women or men, anyone that is in an interracial relationship, to hook you up with a white man. Because it just shows that you have some preconceived notions. You think that because they are white, they have something that you have. Marry someone out of love because you love them and because you looked for the right qualities in a person. You looked for the right qualities in an individual, and that's why you're marrying them. And those qualities match you. You have the same core values, right? That's the thing with my husband and I, even though we have these differing backgrounds, where maybe if we had met, let's say, if we had met 100 years ago, for instance, or 200 years ago, maybe we would have killed each other. For real, maybe we would have been like at war with each other and just massacred each other. But that's not where we are today. Today, we're in a very different place. And we live our lives based on being a human family and trying to move forward as a human family in love and compassion. And we really need to learn to think more critically as a human race. We really, really do, guys. Because this is sad. This is very sad. Yeah. So the next time you hear people talking about, marrying for papers and whatever, please correct them. And the next time you hear people making stereotypes about African people marrying for papers, please share this video with them, or at least just correct them. Like I said, I'm not doing this video for clout. I'm not doing it for views or likes. Thank you though for, the people that did like it. Thank you very much for supporting my content, because then I know what I'm saying. I'm speaking of something that's valuable that people want to listen to, and it helps support what I do. But I'm not doing this for likes. Ultimately, I came on this live to do this just to clear up a lot of these stereotypes, because these are stereotypes that are going to affect us all. They're going to affect how we all relate to each other as a human family. You know what I mean? It's going to affect, because if you're walking up to somebody with a preconceived notion in your head that, oh yeah, this beautiful black woman might be interested in me because of papers, you might miss your soulmate. You might dismiss that woman and be like, I'm not getting into this. And then that's it. And that was supposed to be your soulmate. That was supposed to be your wife. And you just missed that. And you just missed a great love of your life because of some preconceived notion. Right? And similarly, if you're black, if you're African, and you're walking around with this preconceived notion that white men, they have money, they can give you papers or whatever, that means you might dismiss your actual soulmate, who might be a black man, another black person. And this goes either way. If you're a black man, if you're a black woman, African man, you might end up dismissing your soulmate because you are focused on this idea of, if he's white, he might have papers for me to go to another country, abroad, where he might be rich. And usually we automatically think they're rich. We never ever consider that a white person could be poor, just like you. They could just be poor. There's a lot of poor white men out here. And like I just said, I am married to a white man. He is by no means what you would call rich. I grew up rich. He's actually surprised and just like in awe at how rich I grew up. He has never seen that kind of life. I saw it, I lived it. You see. So again, these are stereotypes. But then out there, when people see us walking side by side, they think probably he's rich and I'm the one who's coming out of like crawling out of the sands of the desert, mouth dry, gasping for a sip of water and a green card. You see what I mean? So please, guys, let's grow up already. We're such an intelligent species. What are we doing with our intelligence? We're filling our brains with garbage. We are not utilizing our intelligence to its fullest capacity. If this is how we're operating, this is the wavelength we're operating on, thinking like this, we really aren't. We can do much better because we're so intelligent. Anyway, guys, I think I made all my points. Right, I think I made all my points. And like I said, just check the track record. Want to know who's using who? Check the track record and see why you have the stereotype of the opposite. The stereotype should be the other way around, if you're going to have a stereotype at all. But then I would advise don't have a stereotype at all, because stereotypes suck. They're whack. They just create this harmony. They just such a missed opportunity for so much harmony and so much like love and respect among us as a human family. Such a missed opportunity. So do yourself a service, not a disservice, because stereotypes are a disservice, a great disservice. Do yourself a big favor and challenge your stereotypes. Okay? Challenge them and be a better human being. Things are not always what you think they are. Always challenge what you're seeing. Okay? Always challenge the way you're thinking. Or at least ask questions. Ask people. If you don't know, just say, you know what, I don't know. This is what I saw on TV. These are the stereotypes that I was taught. But I know I could be right and I could be wrong. You seem like you're from a different background than I am. Could you please explain to me, what do you think? Talk to more people. Break bread with people that look different from you, from different cultures and backgrounds than you. You would be surprised what you discover. You would be surprised how much value and knowledge and information that will bring to your life, you will be just, the growth we need is right there if we just come together and 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 share information and start asking. Don't assume. Just start asking. Start asking people questions. You know, if you ask questions about my hair, for example, you don't understand how my hair works. Why is it the way it is? Why is it like this? Why is the hair pattern kinky or curly or whatever you want to call it? Why is our hair like this? Why does it grow up to the sun like a plant and not just fall down like this, like yours does? Any question you have, as long as it's a respectful question, is asked in a respectful manner, and I can see that you want to grow and learn, I don't mind you asking me. I really don't mind you asking me. Leave a comment or message me or whatever. I really don't mind you asking. Again, as long as it's asked in a respectful manner and it's not, meant to insult or belittle. Anytime you're coming from a perspective of wanting to belittle and insult somebody, don't even bother with me because I'm not going to respond. I won't. And I'm the kind of person that I won't even let it even, I won't even give it a second of my attention. So, with that said, I hope we all learn something from this, and I hope we grow. And I hope you guys have a wonderful life. And for those of you who have not met the loves of your lives yet, like I have, I wish you meet the loves of your life, and it has nothing to do with what race they are and or what opportunity they have to give to you. I hope you fall deeply in love, in pure positive love, and feel the warmth and just the pleasure of that without any ulterior motives. It's such a beautiful feeling. My husband just asked me today because I think my son was asking him, what does love mean? And he turned to me and he asked me, he's like, and it just came to me. I didn't even think about it. It just literally came from within. I was like, love is the deepest expression of our consciousness. That's literally what I answered without even a second thought to it. I was just like, it's the deepest expression of our consciousness. Isn't that beautiful? Wouldn't you want to experience that? Just the pureness of that without ulterior motives or wanting to gain anything from anybody. It's a beautiful thing. It's something to aspire for. It really is. So, anyways, I wish you all the best. Peace out. And I'll see you guys later. If you like this content, again, like it, leave a comment, share, whatever. And I know what kind of stuff you like to hear about. If you want me to talk about more of this kind of stuff, or if you want me to talk about my life when I lived in Africa, where I lived, and why I lived such a lavish life, and all of that stuff, and get into detail about it, I can talk about it. But again, you have to let me know. Let me know what you want me to talk about, and I'll talk about it. Bye, beautiful people. And see you later.